came back and said, ugh, they haven't eaten in a couple of days. They're sleeping on the floor. This hot feeling in my stomach.
This hot feeling in my stomach.
Tapping on the side of your eye. I feel sick to my stomach.
I feel sick to my stomach.
Under the eye.
She is an emotional mastery life coach and certified EFT practitioner who believes that living stress-free isn't a myth, but a reality. I agree. She helps her clients find true inner peace by tackling the root of their stress. With 4 years of coaching experience and certifications as a life coach, EFT practitioner, and emotions mentor, Molly has a wealth of knowledge that she's going to share with us. She also does amazing humanitarian work in Kenya and offers free consultations. We already touched on the fun fact because I just needed to know about how you've traveled 6 of 7 continents, how you just flew your plane the first time you got into it. So we visited a little bit about your first flying experience, how that had led you to 6 continents, 6 of 7. Oh, when are you going to Antarctica? Do you have a plan, or is that like
2.5 years?
Huh?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
When is that? That is going to be
December of 2026.
December of 2026. That's a year and a half. December 2026.
This December would be 2024. The next one would be 2025. Next one would be 2026. So 2.5 years.
Okay. Somebody is better at calculating that. I'm guessing you would know because I'm sure this is on your mind.
Okay, in my mind, it was 18 months until the other day. And then I went, oh, darn, it's 2.5 years. It's not 18 months.
Oh, good. So we were thinking the same thing. So those trips took you to Kenya. How did that come about? And how did that impact your work?
Oh, Kenya is my heart. So I was so fortunate how things came about with Kenya. It's been pure magic. So in my previous career, working for my previous company, I saw a marketing video that included this woman that worked in Kenya. And she was an essential oil harvester for this company. And the second I saw her, I just felt connected to her as a woman, as a mother. I just cannot explain why I was so connected to her, but I took a screenshot of her picture, printed it off, put it on my vision board, and talked to her every day for a year. And she had no idea, but we were best friends.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay. What was your previous occupation before you became an EFT practitioner and coach?
So I worked in natural health care, and I educated people on essential oils, natural ways of taking care of themselves, and holistic medicine.
Oh my goodness. So you went from the physical, now you're the mental, the emotional, you're the whole package. So I'm really excited about what we're going to learn from you today. This is exciting. Okay. So your best friend, what was your best friend's name?
Her name is Veronica.
Veronica.
And she is a mother of 5 and a widow. And after I got the chance to talk to her for an entire year, I was determined to go to Kenya with my company. So they did humanitarian trips around the world to take us, to show us the source of harvesting, the source of the essential oils, but also to do community service and give back, which has always been really important to me. So when I went on the trip, I was determined to meet her. But as it turned out, we were going like everywhere but her village. And so I had to give up the dream of meeting her and decided just to write her a letter, express what I was thinking about her and all my well wishes and all of that, and just had to let that be enough. But at the same time, I had met a local Kenyan who we were helping out. We had done some fundraising for her and some things for her while we were in Kenya. And she wanted to pay us back, but didn't really have the means, didn't have a way to express her gratitude, but she knew my desire to meet Veronica. So when I left Kenya, she took it upon herself to go visit Veronica's village and walked around with her picture and just said to people, do you know her? Do you know her? Do you know her? Until she found her. The really fascinating part of that story is when you say village to a non-African, like in our minds, we're like, 500 people, 1,000 people, little village in Africa. Her village is 150,000 people. It's a
Oh,
town,
that's a
and
city.
it's a city.
That's a full-blown city.
Yeah,
Yes. Oh
150,000
my
people. And
gosh.
she walked in and in less than 8 hours found this woman.
It was just a full song.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
it was
And then what
incredible.
happened?
So then she connected us and went out to meet her and checked on her. And she came back and said, ugh, they haven't eaten in a couple of days. They're sleeping on the floor. And initially I was worried. I thought maybe the company I worked for had let her down. But it turns out that she does about a month's worth of work. They pay her for 6 months. And then the other 6 months of the year is on her to be employed. And then when harvest comes around, she's employed again. Well, she was on the back side of that 6 months. So she had worked for
Oh,
them. They had paid her well, but that money had run out. And her second means of income had actually been stolen. And so they hadn't eaten in a few days.
oh,
So I reached back out to my friend and I said, give me all their immediate needs and give me a dollar amount. And so I went onto Facebook and I started to type up this message and I typed, "Dear friends, I need your help." And my fingers stopped on the keyboard. And there was a deep knowing inside me that I did not need this help in any way, that this was already done. So I hit delete, delete, delete. And I wrote, "Dear friends, I welcome your help." And it changed the entire tone of the message. And my friends showed up huge. We needed about $850 to meet their immediate needs. My friends donated $1,700 in the first 24 hours.
oh my gosh.
My company found out what I was doing and said, "Whatever you raise by the end of the week, we will double." I
Oh,
raised $2,900 by the end of the week, and they doubled it to $5,800.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm not supposed to cry.
It
That
was
is
amazing. It was
beautiful.
so beyond our expectations. And it lit a fire for me because now not only could we meet their immediate needs, but we could dream big. $5,800 in Kenya goes very far. And
Right.
so I went back to my friend Alice and I said, okay, yes, we want to meet their immediate needs, but I do not want to come in and be a savior in any way. I want to give this woman the power to sustain her own life. Like, I want to empower her to be
Yes.
okay and generate income consistently and in a good manner. So let's put the money towards that. And so we approached Veronica and said, what are your skills? What are your dreams? What can you do? And really put it on her to get to decide how to orchestrate and dictate the rest of her life. And she said, I want to be a seamstress. I want to have my own business.
Oh man.
So we got her training, got her set up in business, paid the first few months of rent on a small shop, bought her supplies, got the family fed in the meantime while she was working to learn this skill. And then 2020 hit and everything got shut down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so we had to continue to sort of to be with the family and support the family through that because the shutdown in Kenya was very, I mean, even a heavy rain can shut Kenya down for 2 days and they can, and they work very hand to mouth. Like, they earn money, they eat what they earn. So we had to support her mostly still through 2020. My friends stepped in anytime there was a lag in our funding. And then we were finally able to get her up and running. And she has a little shop. It's actually attached just outside of their house. So she kind of sort of works from home and she's
Oh
doing quite
wow.
well.
You've empowered her. I love
Yeah.
that you are empowering. That's your take on it. You're making sure you're not just giving a fish. You're
Yes.
just
Yeah. Because
not
that
even
was
just
going to run out. As good
that
as
was going to
that
run
money
out.
is, and as much as it could do, it wasn't going to be forever. And that really cut her off at the knees. Had we just been like, here, let's give you money, that actually takes away her dignity over time.
Absolutely. And we know this across so many studies here in the States
Mhm.
as well. What people need that opportunity to there's a word I'm looking for. They need that opportunity to um, they need a meaningful pursuit.
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
need to have meaning
Absolutely.
in their life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's living. And the fact that you found that and you've gifted that to your peers as well, your friends and your peers, and that just touched so many people. Is there an opportunity? And I promise we're going to get into the reason we're here is to talk about EFT, emotional, and all the other things. But
Okay,
and
I
I
could talk about Kenya
promise
all
we're going to
day.
get there. But I'm just so intrigued. Is there an opportunity for others to like be a part of this journey should they feel so moved?
Yes and no. So it is definitely in my desires and dreams to create this into something bigger, 501c, something to that effect. I haven't done it yet. It is still very much a grassroots effort. I did actually have gone back to Kenya twice since. I have met Veronica, I've been with the family. My hope is to take other entrepreneurial women back to Kenya with me so that they can almost sort of like adopt a friend in Kenya and take on helping another woman get her leg up, empower her, use their business knowledge and their business skills to translate and help that woman do what she wants to do in her life. So I actually did have that opportunity in November. I had a friend that went with me who's a fellow entrepreneur, and she sort of adopted a family and is working with that family to empower them. And so it's in the works. It's growing. I will probably go back to Kenya in about another 18 months or so. And so I am inviting people to come along and have the experience and go on safari. But as of yet, it's still a
Oh,
grassroots effort.
oh, that's fantastic. So let's say somebody wants to follow along. How would they
Yeah.
do that?
So they can reach out to me. The information about Kenya is on my website, but they can also follow along on Instagram. And as we start working more towards the
Websites.
next trip, the website is theahacoach.net.
So theahacoach.net. There it is. And so if you want a connection, I have a girlfriend who helped her friend do a 501c3, which
Hmm.
has a lot of acrobatic moves to get it through.
Yeah.
And she has a friend who is actually a 501c3 attorney.
Hmm.
Something I promise, Michelle, if you're listening to this, I was listening. It was just a lot of information. But if I can help make that connection, I would be honored to make that connection.
Yeah, certainly. I would love to talk to somebody who's done it and has a sense of, I mean, because I literally have no idea where to start. I just know that there's a good chance it's probably supposed to happen. And everything with Veronica from the very second I laid eyes on her has been pure magic. Doors have flung open. It has been so effortless. It so supports my life's purpose. So I just know like whatever's meant to be will always come to fruition and I don't have to worry about it one bit.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like you don't have a lot of stress. So that brings that one of the things I wanted to talk about today is like the misconception of stress because like this
Yes.
happened with such ease.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
Yes. So we have a big misconception about stress in our culture. It's very, very common. And so therefore we think it's very, very normal and that we should just be stressed about everything and everybody's bothering us and nothing's going our way. And if it is going our way, we definitely have to keep it going our way. Otherwise we're going to be stressed. And it's just not true. And the way that I explained it to people, so one of my first aha moments was when I went to see my first naturopath doctor in my early 30s. And I was gone to her because my cycle was giving me trouble. And she's like, well, tell me about it. And I said, well, normal. My boobs hurt. I have cramps. I'm in a bad mood. And I mean, there's a touch of homicidal rage. So,
And
totally
it's
normal.
normal.
It's normal. And she
It's
looked
normal,
at
right?
me.
It
Yeah.
shouldn't what did he tell you? He's like, no, not
Yeah. And she
normal.
looked at me and she kind of cocked her head to the side and she said, that's not normal.
Thank you.
And I said, what do you mean that's not normal? But like all my girlfriends experience it. Like this is a common uh, topic of conversation amongst
It's a
women.
common misconception that is
Yes.
normal, that this
Yes.
beautiful natural process is normal. And I'm so glad you say this because
Yeah.
I feel this so much. My daughter just turned 14. This
Hmm.
is luckily she'll never listen to this. She just started her period like just a few months ago, like a late bloomer. And people are
Yeah.
talking about, and I'm like, no, not really hormone. Like she had one little hormone tick, and I was like, oh, that's out of character. But for the most part,
Yeah.
it's it's ease. So
Yeah.
okay. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you confirmed because I just thought that genetically we're gifted. So
Yes.
we're genetically normal.
Yeah, and apparently you're doing all the right things that basically keep your hormones in balance and don't have your toxin load be too heavy. And because it is just, you're just supposed to bleed. Like that really is what's normal. And it blew my mind. And it just stuck with me for such a long time. And when I came into my spiritual awakening, I realized, oh, the stress isn't normal either. Just
Mm.
because it's common, it's not normal. And
So you
it's so much
mentioned,
created in our own mind.
right? So you mentioned toxin loads.
Hmm.
So release the toxins,
Yes.
which naturally I think folks would think, oh, food toxins, like don't eat McDonald's, but or whatever, if we're really going to confess, like maybe not as many martinis, but that's a different kind of toxin. But like we're so happy to eat organically and then have 10 margaritas, not healthy.
Yeah.
But so toxins that way, but what are other toxins that might come into play that folks might not consider?
For the physical space or the mental emotional toxins?
Yes.
The mental emotional toxins. So those would basically be our thoughts and what we believe about them. So is when
Wait, it's
we're,
our thought. I like that. I
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off. Your thoughts and what you believe about those thoughts.
yes.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yes. There's so little is so little in life is happening to us. Like so much is how we're interpreting what's happening to us.
Yes.
So there's a great interview between Brene Brown and Oprah. And Brene Brown's basically explaining this concept. And she said, she kind of used a fake interaction between them. And she's like, okay, Oprah, we get done with the interview and you get up and you go, ugh. And I think, oh my God, I've done a terrible job. Oprah hated me. She didn't want me on this interview. I suck. I was awful. And now I take that self doubt and I take all of that. And then my phone rings and it's my daughter. And I'm short with her and I'm kind of rude. And so now I'm taking all this angst and I'm off gassing it off to the next person who will then do that to the next person and the next person. It's how we create this ripple effect.
Mhm.
And she said, and I never thought to question one, the story in my head, and I never thought to ask you about it. And Oprah comes back to her and says, oh, I didn't think you were terrible at the interview. When I stood up, my knee had grabbed because it's been hurting for a couple days and we've been sitting here doing this interview for an hour. And so when I stood up, my knee grabbed and I went, ugh, because my knee was in pain and it actually had nothing to do with you.
How often does that happen in
Way
our
too much.
lives? It's a misunderstanding.
Yes.
And, I say a lot. I love that you talk about this because I say this a lot. I'm like, like, you don't have to believe every story that you make up in your head. If that
No.
story you're making up in your head isn't serving you, make up a different story. So it
Yes.
sounds like we just need to be better storytellers.
Yes.
So,
And not
so
taking
okay,
things
in that
personally.
situation, so Brene Brown, Oprah
Yeah.
said, Brene Brown, how could have she done it differently? She just,
She could have just stopped right then and there and said, hey, Oprah, the story I'm making up is that you thought I did a bad job because I heard you make that sound when we got up and you sounded frustrated. And I decided that that was about me. Could you help me understand what you were thinking?
so exactly go back to the story, like let them in on the story that you just said in your head.
Yes. And you definitely want to do this from a place of not accusing the person or not being like, not going in assumptive, like, oh, see, you obviously are mad at me. You obviously do think I suck. Like going in and saying the story I'm making up or how I perceived this, basically keeping it on you because it is on you.
Right.
And then fact checking the story.
Fact checking, like a curious toddler. Go in like a
Yeah.
curious toddler.
Yes. Absolutely.
Is that, oh, that is good. So getting to that point, and I can see how if you just stick to the facts and just know that, that could really ease our stress. So what are some other things that cause people to, I think a lot of it's cultural too, right? Would you
Mhm.
agree? Because
Yes.
I'm thinking your friend Vanessa, she has real stress.
Yes, Veronica has very real stress. They live at the level of survival. And but even within her story, there's still ways for us to reframe and look at her situation differently. So in their culture, I mean, like a lot of cultures, a teenager ending up pregnant is not very welcomed. And it's exactly what happened to her daughter. And she made it mean that they had taken on all this shame as a family, that they had let down God, that they had let down their community, that her daughter needed to be ashamed and ostracized. I mean, it took on a whole enormous meaning. And so we talked about it and we did some coaching around it. And I was like, does it have to mean that? Like, and have we considered the origin of why we've blamed women for pregnancy historically? And
Right.
what does that say about the patriarchy? And, so like we had a whole conversation around like at least examining it from all the different perspectives. And then lastly, just coming at it from a place of compassion. Do you want to bathe 9 months of pregnancy? Do you want to bathe this baby in shame? And quite
Yeah.
frankly, they didn't want to. So they shifted and she loved on her daughter and she shared that with her community and she shifted the narrative within her own community that instead of shaming our daughters, we can support them.
Oh, that's beautiful. So that became the beginning ripple effect of that village of 100,000 people.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
I hope so.
huh?
I hope so. That is definitely the goal is that when we change ourselves, we change those around us.
Oh, I love that so much. You mentioned before, not yet here, so I'm going to just bring it up. As
Yeah.
long as things are going my way, I'm happy. And
Yes.
how that is a trap. How
Yes.
our happiness is conditional. Can you
Yes.
elaborate on that concept? Because
Absolutely.
I love for that, if everybody could just take this coaching moment
Yes.
from you, I see how incredibly life-changing this will be.
Yes. The happiness trap is a very catchy one. Like it, and our culture really supports it. So like when I lose that 10 pounds, then I'll be happy. As long as I keep that promotion, as long as I get that next client, as long as I have that dream vacation home, as long as.
Oh,
So we
it's
stay,
conditional.
it's very conditional. It's very outside of ourselves. And God forbid we get all of that because then we will have to keep all of the plates spinning in the air to keep and maintain our happiness.
Oh, that sounds good. So what's the secret?
The secret is to understand that your joy does not exist outside of you ever for anything, and that it is directly created within. And that if you work to create it within, all of the outside things will then be not irrelevant, but you can go back to enjoying them instead of needing them to make you happy.
Okay. Now that, okay, we get that. We get that. All
Yes.
right. Now, I hear the words that are coming out of your mouth, but we've been trained
Yes.
to aspire for these things because it'll make us happy. How do we
Yes.
shift that? Like, how does that, like, because that just naturally wants to happen. Like, I know so many people that thrive on stress, that thrive
Mm.
on, well, if. They call them goal setting. That is like, hey, if I get this, I'll be happy. If I get this, and
Yeah.
Like, it's, how do you, like, what is it? Is this where we talk about EFT?
So yeah, EFT plays into this for sure. I think where we start though is simply awareness.
Yeah.
Is you have to catch yourself noticing, hey, I hit that goal. That was awesome for about 30 seconds. And now I'm on to the next thing. Or I don't feel as satisfied as I thought I would. Like the goal was really great and it was really great to achieve it, but yet I don't feel that sense of fulfillment I thought I would feel. And so I think it takes awareness. I think it takes starting to notice your reaction to things. There's an Olympic gold medalist who had strived obviously for years to be in the Olympics and go for the gold and do all the things. And she was standing on the block with the gold medal around her neck. And her first thought was, okay, now what?
Oh.
Because we just realize how hollow those things can ring when we put our happiness as being dependent on them. Now, if she could just be fully present in the moment and enjoy it, that would have been a different experience.
So staying in the moment and enjoying the moment,
Yes.
like making sure we do those things is like, so there's so much tied into, so, you know, how people talk about making goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so much of goal setting has so much to do with, okay, when I get that, I will be happy.
Yeah.
How do you set goals? Because that's how we're taught, right? When we win the
Mm-hmm.
championship, we'll be happy. And this has always been my thing. It's like, be happy at every game, win or lose, because you're going to
Yes.
lose one day, right? And it can't be like a big deflate. How do you separate that between like achieving and wanting and striving for the championship and not saying that that's what's going to make me happy?
Right. Right. So a concept that a friend of mine introduced me to called high involvement, low attachment. Meaning, yes, put all your effort towards that goal and put all of your heart and soul into moving towards that goal. But don't be attached to the fruit of the labor. Don't be attached to the outcome. And certainly take a moment to question why the goal is the goal in the first place. Is the goal an attempt to make you happy? Or is the goal an attempt to just live your next moment of life's purpose? So if you're doing it to forward your life's purpose and to make the world a better place, that's a different goal than like, so that then I can be personally fulfilled. I can know I'm good enough. My parents will finally be proud. If you're doing it to somehow make yourself okay on the inside, it will never make you okay.
It'll never be okay. So, okay, purpose,
Yes.
right? Now
Yeah.
that is a, you just dominoed into that one. Like, how many people are like, I don't know, I'm just doing the next best thing that I can. Like this
Yeah.
purpose-driven life concept. Like so many
Mm.
folks, it's like, I don't know why. I don't know for why, for what purpose. Like,
Yeah.
how, if that awareness, as long as you go to the next step, knowing your, like, where do you, how does that get defined?
Oh, we have so many misconceptions about that too. So to me, purpose is so simple. It is so incredibly simple. Now, the goals you set, the things you want to go after and achieve, those are specific. But my personal belief is that your purpose, my purpose, everybody's purpose is exactly the same and incredibly simple. Your purpose is to be you. If you are worried about what people think of you, you're not being yourself. If you are angry at somebody and holding on to that anger and harboring it, you're not being yourself. If you are scared to be seen, you're not being yourself. So people think, well, it seems too simple, just being me. You know how hard it is to fully be you?
So it's that being authenticity uncensored,
Yes.
like
And
unhinged authenticity.
yes,
I
fully,
love it.
fully you.
You know, one of the gifts of ADD is that I think it's simpler for those with ADD, but there's a lot of anxiety on the back end because society might
Mm.
say, that's bizarre. So, what happens when we get all these weird, like emotional stuff spinning in our head that keeps us thinking we need to, whew,
Yeah.
Hold back.
That's where the EFT can come in. So that's where we could talk about emotional freedom technique and tapping.
So I guess I'm not the only one that has had that feeling.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
There, it's such a big deal that there's actually a profession around this. What else? How else does EFT help us?
Oh, EFT is so good. So EFT is emotional freedom technique, and it is a self-help tool and a modality to help you calm your nervous system and reduce stress. So most people that are unfamiliar with it, the way I'd explain it is usually people are familiar with acupuncture.
Yes.
So put needles in the body, different places, it unblocks the energy, and then you go back to feeling healthy and whole again. So tapping is known as emotional acupuncture. So there are meridian endpoints around the face, the upper body, where these meridian endpoints, when we tap on them, we actually send a calming signal into the body and return the body back to that rest and digest state. So, and we touch these places naturally when we're
Did you
stressed. Like
say
we might,
rest and digest?
yes, that's the
Okay.
opposite of fight or flight. So your digestive system actually slows down when you're in fight or flight. Because if you're running from a tiger, you're not going to be eating a cheeseburger.
Oh,
So it's
got it.
sometimes hard, like why people, when they're nervous, have a hard time eating because their body, the digestive system is not fully functioning the way it normally would. Or they
Okay.
might have the opposite problem. Maybe everything is exiting their body all at once because they're nervous and scared. Because again, the body doesn't need any of that to run from the tiger.
Thank you for diving deep in that. And
Yeah.
thank you for letting me, like, I was like, yeah, I think you're like, I can't move on unless I get it. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. I've never heard that before. That makes so much sense. So the EFT gets us out of that fight or flight so that we
Yeah.
can rest and we can and allow our body to do the things that it needs to do in order to survive slash thrive.
Yes.
Ah, beautiful. So how
Yeah.
does this EFT thing work?
Okay, so the way that it works is when we tap on these meridian points of the body, we send that calming signal into the body. At the same time, we're going to talk about the truth of how you feel, and that's going to set off fight or flight in the brain. So we've got the body calming down, we've got the
Uh-huh.
mind ramping up, and the two signals just can't coexist.
Okay.
So it literally takes the emotional charge that you have attached to the emotion you're feeling, the memory you're having, the thought you're producing, and it releases that emotional charge and takes you back to emotional neutrality. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So I had a client come to me with a fear of flying. She had been afraid of flying for 20 years, had to fly on Xanax, had to fly with other people, was always like gripping the person next to her, feet off the floor, very much like pulling herself into a fetal position, terrified. So we did several rounds of EFT tapping and we talked about exactly how she was feeling, exactly all her fears. She was very nervous through the session. She cried at several points. She tapped her leg, like everything. She comes back 2 or 3 sessions later and she said, okay, I have all the memory. Like I can see myself getting on the plane. I could see myself scrunching up. Like I know all that was true because I lived it, but I don't feel scared. Like was I really all that scared? Was I?
Was that really me?
Was that really me?
Did I dream that? Was that
Yeah.
who was that person?
Yes. So all the memory is intact, but the emotional charge is completely gone. And so she just couldn't connect to that part of herself that had been terrified.
Oh, how what a relief for her. So is she on that next flight to Kenya with you in 18 months?
She might be. She has since flown on a private plane unmedicated. She has flown in commercial jets unmedicated. She jumped off a cliff, rode an ATV, took a gondola ride up the side of the Swiss Alps, all things she would not have done when she had that fear present.
Oh my goodness. What freedom that gave her.
Such freedom.
So that emotional freedom gave her that physical freedom to basically live her best life.
Yes. So I would love to go through it and show you and show your audience what EFT looks like, how it works, if you're willing to play along.
Let's play.
Okay. So tell me something, anything at all that's a stress in your life right now. It can be something minor, but something you're worried about, something you're stressed about.
Something I'm stressed about. Something I'm stressed about. Um, my husband, where's my husband? He can tell me what I'm stressed about. I'm like, I'm in a position, I don't know. Oh, so I'm building out these courses and I'm stressed
Okay.
about, so we've been updating our website and doing this kind of stuff. And I've reached a place that I'm stuck in
Okay.
and I want to hire somebody. And um, I've had some folks that have not been completely honest with me that I've been wanting to hire.
Hmm.
So just kind of gotten burned in the past, and I want to move forward in faith. So it
Yes.
kind of
Okay.
stresses me out because I don't like not trusting people.
Okay.
And I like
Okay.
to I want to move forward in that faith and
Okay.
trust myself that I can recognize a red flag.
Okay, got it. And when you think about hiring that person, you've been burned before, and now you're going to have to find somebody new, and you don't know if you can trust them. Where do you feel that stress in your body as we talk about it?
Right here in my belly,
Okay.
like above my navel, below my
Yeah.
rib cage.
Yeah. So that's your solar plexus, which is your power center, which makes so much sense that you would have that, that would be landing there for you. What does the sensation feel like?
It feels um almost hot, numb, like yeah, it makes me almost want to sweat. I think that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And then on a scale of 10 to 0, 10 being the most stress you could feel, 0 being none at all, what is that sensation? What number would you give that sensation right now?
4.
Okay. All right. So you're going to follow along with me. So you're going to tap and repeat after me. So it's a little like follow the leader. So we're
Okay.
tapping on the side of the hand. That's where we start.
Does it matter which hand?
It does not matter which hand.
Okay.
And so you'll say, even though I've got this worry in my stomach
Even though I have this worry in my stomach
and it feels hot
and it feels hot
because I have to hire somebody
because I have to hire somebody
and I'm worried about being burned.
and I'm worried about being burned.
I honor how I'm feeling
I honor how I'm feeling
and I love and accept myself fully,
and I love and accept myself fully.
even though I'm worried about hiring somebody
Even though I'm worried about hiring somebody
because I've been burned in the past
because I've been burned in the past.
and I want to be able to trust,
And I want to be able to trust,
but I don't know how to trust.
but I don't know how to trust.
I accept that I feel this way
I accept that I feel this way
and I allow my body to relax now,
and I allow my body to relax now,
even though I have this hot feeling in my stomach
even though I have this hot feeling in my stomach
because I have to hire somebody
because I have to hire somebody
and I don't know how to trust them.
and I don't know how to trust them.
I want to be somebody who can trust.
I want to be somebody who can trust.
And I allow my body to fully relax now.
And I allow my body to fully relax now.
Okay, take a deep breath and go to your eyebrow point. This hot feeling in my stomach,
This hot feeling in my stomach.
tapping on the side of your eye. I feel sick to my stomach.
I feel sick to my stomach.
Under the eye, I need to hire somebody.
I need to hire somebody.
Under the nose, but I've been burned before.
But I've been burned before.
Under the mouth, I want to trust them.
I want to trust them.
Collarbone point, but I don't know how to trust them.
But I don't know how to trust them.
Under the arm, what would it take for me to trust?
What would it take for me to trust?
Top of your head, what would it take for me to be calm now?
What would it take for me to be calm now?
Eyebrow point, feeling this hot feeling in my stomach.
Feeling this hot feeling in my stomach.
Side of the eye, I've been burned before.
I've been burned before.
Under the eye, I'm worried about hiring the right person.
I'm worried about hiring the right person.
Under the nose, but I'm willing to release this fear.
But I'm willing to release this fear.
Under the mouth, I transmute this fear into love.
I transmute this fear into love.
Collarbone point. And I am willing to open myself to trust.
And I'm willing to open myself up to trust.
Under the arm. I've been burnt before.
I've been burnt before.
Top of the head. But now I'm willing to trust.
But now I'm willing to trust.
Okay. Take a deep breath. I want you to imagine hiring that person. Imagine everything you just told me, that you've got to build this website. You've got to find somebody you've not really loved who you've talked to in the past. And you had this burning feeling in your stomach. Tell me if that feels better, worse, or the same when we started.
Oh, it feels better.
Good. Tell me what you're feeling.
Relief.
Good. Good. What seems different about that situation now?
It feels like it'll happen with ease. Without worrying. Yeah, just like that release of the pressure of making a good decision or the right decision.
Yes. That's so common. Like, we think that there's a right decision. We think that there's the best decision. There's always just a decision. And ultimately, you might hire the wrong person and you might hire the right person, if that even exists, and you'll learn from either. But what a gift to walk into the next interview, not already putting that person into that, I can't trust you. You probably have red flags. I need to watch out. I have to protect myself from you. What a gift for yourself and for them to let them come in on a clean slate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have my team now. I'm like, hey, you know how I miss red flags? I need you, when I miss those red flags, can you help me out?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's even some tapping to do on that. Why do you believe that you always miss red flags? What do you think it is about
that's
you?
the one I should have done.
Back to your example of hiring somebody. I'm sure you've talked about that a few times with your husband, with your staff, and you weren't any less stressed after talking about it than you were 5 minutes ago. But when we did the tapping on it, you were able to release the stress, and then you didn't have to change your mind. Your mind changed.
My mind
That's
changed.
a different place to come from.
Oh, I did not have to change my mind. My mind changed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So how is it that you help your people? Like, how do you serve them? Yes, you guide them through the EFT, but I there's more than that, because you do so much more.
Yeah. So I really work on the emotional piece. We do that through EFT. We do it through other modalities. I work on their mindset. I work on helping them see how they're seeing their world, and just offering them the ability to see it from all the different perspectives so that they can work to move towards inner peace. So that is my goal with my clients, is to get them in a place where they can have effortless, unconditional, ever-present, eternal well-being.
Oh, I love that so much. Okay, I have a question. It's kind of like raising that next generation kind of a question. So as you've visited with all these folks, right? So one of my, and I've shared this a few times with my friends and like coaches, we know a lot of coaches. I said, my goal is that the children, my children, other people's children, don't have to recover from this experience when they get older.
Yes.
And,
so good.
and that is, and I find it odd that that's not a common theme.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. And so I want to share that now. So what are some things that you've found that people have carried from their childhood that they're having to recover from in their adulthood, that maybe us as adults, bringing in the next generation, raising confident, amazing, beautiful humans that are going to take care of us in our old age? What can we do that they don't have to recover from it?
Oh, gosh, that's such a broad question, but such a good one. So many of my clients are first generation emotionally mastered people in their family. And it's a really big deal. Like, they really plant that flag and they're like, no more from this point on. And what people come with is, I mean, there's as many things as there are days, in a year. So everybody comes with a whole host of things. And even if it's not big T trauma, even if it's just small things, it's how we interpreted our childhood, how we interpreted our upbringing that makes a difference. But what I tell people is you just start where you are. So you just start where you are with who you are. And if you master your emotions and you treat your children differently from that place, I assure you they will learn from you modeling what it looks like to be a whole and complete human.
How do we help our children move forward? Like, what can we do as parents,
Yeah.
or when they go to school and we send them out to be coached by coaches that have had trauma, that think that it needs to be carried on, or teachers that think it needs to go on? How do we help our children not carry that?
I think it starts with having them feel safe to be fully themselves in their own home. So if you need your child to act a certain way for you to be okay, your child's already at a deficit. So it's getting yourself in check first so that you're not taking their tantrum personally, or taking their bad day personally, or needing them to get certain grades so that you can look a certain way. Like, we have to go through all of that first with the parents to get them to a place where their child can be fully safe to be fully themselves in their own home. And then when they go out into the world and encounter a whole bunch of things that are hard to, do and hard to understand, and that they have that safe place to come back home and maybe share it or talk about it, and at least land safely where they're not going to be judged and they're not going to need to make up for your childhood trauma.
So they're secure in their autonomy.
Yes.
And they're secure. So basically raising secure little humans so that when they get older, they can work on something else, like going to Kenya's and finding their own Vanessas. And that is, I think that allows you to grow so much as well. Mm-hmm. And now you've given that back to us so that we can learn from your experiences.
Yeah. And so when my daughter was little, she's 20 now.
Oh, okay.
And she is an amazing human. And when she was little, she was very strong-willed and very determined. And I'm very strong-willed and very stubborn. And so we butted heads a lot. Like, it was tumultuous for a while. Oh. And I had a point when she was 9, and I thought, okay, the way I've been doing it up to this point hasn't been working. I'm not making her any more polite or any more compliant, or, I'm not getting her to act the way I need her to act so I can be okay. So there's got to be another way. And so I had a conversation with her one night, and I gave her carte blanche to be honest in a way that children probably rarely get to do with their parents. Like, you can really tell me, like, what's really going on. Like, no punishment, no anything. Like, you get to say whatever. And I asked her why she didn't use her manners more, because by that age, it should be pretty reflexive and you should be able to do it more, often. And she kind of tested the waters. Like, are you sure I'm allowed to be honest? Are you sure I can really say the thing? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I really want you to tell me. And she said, okay, I could. I mean, I know to use my manners more, but if I do, you win. And that stopped me in my tracks. Oh. And I could have come back at her and said, well, you better shape up and you better do that. But instead, I really took on the personal responsibility of, what have I done that my 9-year-old is weaponizing manners? How have I created an environment that she even feels the need to weaponize manners? So when I took full personal responsibility for that, it shifted everything, because I no longer needed her to be a certain way for me to be okay.
Oh, wow. In a way, you took the power away from her and put it on you. So you took, it allowed her to grow in her own power.
It really did. And everything from that point forward started shifting. Now, we had work to do, and it took work. But it was well worth it. And when she was 14, we were having a conversation one evening, and she said, remember when we used to fight a lot? We didn't get along. And I was like, oh, sure.
You remember
I was
that?
like, yeah. And she's like, if you could go back and change it, would you? And I knew my answer as an adult, but I didn't think she would understand my answer. So I sort of hesitated and paused. And in my hesitation, she spoke up and said, because I wouldn't change it. And I
Oh,
was so intrigued. And I said, tell me more. And she said, well, if we hadn't gone through that, if we hadn't gone through the hard things, then we wouldn't know how to have difficult conversations and we wouldn't be where we are today. And I really love you and I really respect you. And like, we're kind of besties. And I don't think that would have happened otherwise.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything is meant to be. You're going to go through it and it's going to work out, which is great, or it's not going to work out and you're going
Yeah.
to get a lesson. Either way, it's great.
Either way, it's great. There's really, outside of big trauma and events, but even that can be worked on, the majority of our day-to-day lives are just day-to-day lives. It's 50-50. Sometimes things are going our way, sometimes things are not going our way. And all of it can be used for spiritual sandpaper. All of it.
Spiritual sandpaper. I
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been such an amazing conversation. You've shared so much. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for being a guest on their all-star, collaboration
Thank
community here.
you.
What is a nugget that maybe we didn't get to touch on? And you're like, Bettina, if you would have asked the right question, you would have hit this.
So I love to quote my favorite spiritual teacher because this is such a good nugget. And it helps people start to bring that awareness because you can just start small with this. You can start really small, bringing awareness to your day-to-day thoughts and your day-to-day emotions. And that little nugget is the moment in front of you is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for letting me go through that process in my head. It took
Yes.
me a minute, but I did get there. I promise. That's
Yeah.
great. Who is that quote from?
That quote is from Michael Singer, and he is the most amazing spiritual teacher. And that is a quote from his latest book.
Oh, that's
Mm.
fantastic. I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that so much, and thank you for coming and joining us. We're
Thank you
going
for
to make
having
sure
me.
that this is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on our website. We're going to have reels and just with all these amazing nuggets that you shared. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor.